Hi, welcome back to another video.
So on this channel, I make a lot of things and, props. And one of the key things about making any kind of prop is a lot of times you need to make something that's made out of one thing look like it's made out of another thing. For example, you might have pink foam or EVA or wood or a rock, and you need them to look like something else. So maybe I need this rock to look like it's made out of wood, or this foam look like it's a rock. Things like that. Anyway, I thought that it might be helpful to make some videos to kind of show some of the techniques of how you can accomplish that. So today I'm going to actually work on making something look like a marble statue. And the truth is that with making any of these surfaces, the process of making it look like the surface is the same no matter what the surface is.
Surface.
Again. Say
Surface.
again. I dare you. I double dare you.
But preparing the surface will be different for each kind of material. And I'm not going to cover preparing the surface. I'm going to assume going into this that you have prepared your surface and it's ready to go into the next steps of painting or texturing, whatever it takes to make it look like the surface. If you want to see some videos on how to prepare certain surfaces, leave a comment so that I know that, and I'll be happy to make those. For this example, I've decided to just use a 3D print. So here's my 3D print that is all prepared, ready to be turned into a marble statue. This is it's been sanded and primed, and it has, in this case, a base coat of white. Since the marble that we're doing is going to be white, I thought it'd be good to start with a light background.
And the first step in trying to recreate any type of surface is you've got to have good reference. And so scour the internet, or better yet, find the real thing if you can. Now, I was able to visit Hearst Castle in California, and it is filled with marble statues. Most of them are just pure white marble, which is beautiful in real life, but it's also kind of boring for what we want to do. So I did find a lot of examples of this Carrara marble, which is white with gray streaks in it. And I took some good pictures and looked very close at it, and guess what? Marble is made out of little tiny crystals.
Because it's got those crystals, there's slight variation in between each little crystal. So when you look at it close, it's almost like it's pixelated. From a distance, all of those colors kind of blur together with your eye, and you get an overall color. Another thing is that because it's made out of the calcite crystals, light can go into the surface and bounce around a little bit and then come back out. That means that in thin areas around edges and corners, light will it will be a little bit translucent. So it almost feels like it's glowing. The whole thing always feels a little bit glowy. We're not able to, with a surface that is not translucent, like this plastic or most things that you're going to be doing, we can't recreate the actual translucence, but we can hint at it, and that's a step that we'll get to at the end. But for the color, what we need to do is basically get bunches of little variation of color all throughout here. So a key part of this is we're using acrylic paints, and acrylic dries very quickly. So we need to kind of tell it to don't dry so quickly. So there's a few things that we can use. I've got this, it's called slow dry blending medium. This will slow down the drying process. Here's a really nice one called gloss glazing medium. This does a really great job. This is a little bit more, it's expensive, but I love this stuff. But I think we're gonna mostly use this. I'm going to use a chip brush, and I'm going to use natural sponges. because these already have kind of a speckly shape to them. So okay, what I've got here to start, and to be honest, I'm trying to just experiment with these colors as I go. I know what I want, but I'm just going to try some things, and this is a very forgiving process, so don't be afraid to just try. So what I've got here is that's just light buttermilk, and this is the Granite Gray, and a touch of vanilla and some white, and both of those are mixed with glazing medium, or sorry, the blending, slow dry blending medium. So now I'm just gonna just get some of this on the surface. Okay, now I'm gonna use my sponge, and the sponge needs to be damp. So I've already got it wet, I've wringed it out so it's nice and soft. So now I'm gonna dip this in here, and I'm gonna just dip it on like that. Now the more you dab it, the more it makes cool little different marks, okay? That's what we're going for. I'm working a little bit quick because even though I've got the slow dry stuff on there, it does still dry fast relative to, well, relative to your working speed. Okay, and I'm just gonna do the same thing all over. With the sponge, if you just tap it real lightly and just let it touch, you get one effect. If you push down harder, you get another effect. It will kind of blend it more if you push down hard. So what I'm going for is I want little dots of variation. Can you see it here? Kind of like here on the forehead, but I don't necessarily want big dots of variation like this. For this particular kind of marble, that's the way it is. All right, now while it's still wet here, let's do another color. So what I want is something like this, but whiter. So you can see next to this, it's a little bit whiter. So I'm using my same brush. I don't mind that the colors are all blending together on my brush. Okay, and now we're doing the same thing. One important thing is to make sure that you turn your sponge. If you always keep it in the same way, you just make these stamps that you can start to see the pattern. Okay, can you see that variation in there? It's super subtle, but it still feels white. We're gonna let this dry.
Okay, so I went down a route with these stripes that didn't work out, and I'm just going to show it to you anyway, even though it's super speed. I was using black and trying to get variation on the black, and it was just too strong. There are marbles that have veins like this, but this is not the look I wanted to go with. Also, after putting them all down, I realized that I had kind of spaced them all out evenly, and it just looked strange to me. So I just started over. Once I let all of the black dry, and then I just repainted my base coats with my sponge, giving it that speckled look to start from. And now we're back to where we were just a few moments ago. Now the veins in marble run throughout the depth of it, and the deeper in the vein is, the lighter it will appear. So I'm going to start with the deepest veins, and I'm just using a straight light gray that's just a little bit darker in value than the base color. And I'm just going to kind of paint this on. Now for marble, most marbles, the veins go in just one direction. And so when you're painting something flat, it's super easy to keep track of that. But when you're painting a three-dimensional thing like this figure, you have to remember that these veins are going all the way through. You're going to see them both on the front and the back. And so you have to keep track of the angle. Now, I want this paint to be soft. So after putting it down, I'm using a clean, damp sponge and just kind of sponging it down. You can see it just kind of blurs it into the background a little bit. So I'm going to do this throughout. With every layer that I put on, I kind of want the veins to be lost and found. In some areas it's darker, in some areas it's sharper, in some areas it's smoother, in some areas it's lighter. Okay, the first layer of veining is done, and so the second layer, I'm going to roughly follow the first lines, but they don't have to follow exactly. And I'm using a gray that is a little bit darker than the first one. And I'm going to use a sponge to soften the edges again. And we kind of want this to fade off into the background as well. You'll see I'm using an artificial sponge here. The whole pattern that's on these is a lot smaller, a lot smoother than what is with the natural sponges. So I like this one. I need it to be very soft. So I'll finish with this layer and we'll move on to the next one, which will be very similar. We're just going to use another darker color. And as I looked at the reference, I could see that a lot of times the veins would kind of be speckled. And so I went back to my natural sponge brush and kind of sponged over that and allowed it to kind of make these areas that are speckled and more broad. Now I'm moving into the veins that are closest to the surface. They're the darkest. This may look like black on the camera, but it's not actually. It's just slightly, it's grayed down just a little bit, and it's very watery. So because it's watery, it will dry even lighter. But I'm putting this on, dabbing it around. This is a scary process, but you just have to trust the process. The layering that we're doing, as we're doing it and we're looking it up close, it may look like we're messing everything up. But if we just trust the process, eventually, when we're done, we sit it down and we come and look at it and we'll be proud of what it looks like. Now, these veins that are closest to the surface, they often do have a hard edge. And so one of the things that I'll try to do is as I soften them, I'll just soften one side of my stroke and leave the other side nice and hard. Now, if you feel like you kind of put too much paint on, you can clean your brush off of all of the paint and just touch it onto your wet paint and it will kind of pull it off. Or have clean water in it. You can do the same thing with your sponge. Just dab it on there and you can kind of pick up some of that paint. Okay, now all of my veining has dried and we're nearly finished. There's only one last step. If you remember at the beginning, we didn't use any actual pure white, but this time we are going to use pure white. Remember how white marble or marble has that translucent quality that kind of makes it look like it glows? Well, we're going to dry brush on some white in the thin areas where light might be able to shine through. So like these folds, light can come from one side to the other. So we're going to brighten up the edge with this white paint. Now, if you wanted to do pure white marble without the veins in it, you could do the first step that we did with the sponging of the different colors and then go straight to this and it would look like white marble. If you're not familiar with dry brushing, what I'm doing is I get paint on my brush and then I actually just paint it right off onto my paper towel below and then just gently rub it across the high points, and you can see it just adds a little bit of dimension to it. We usually use dry brushing to show the surface that's underneath, to show all of the detail, but this time we're using it very specifically just to show the areas where there would be glow. And so it's a lot more controlled dry brushing than what you might usually do. And it's a very, very subtle effect, but it actually makes a huge difference to the way that your eyes perceive this, and it feels like it's, glowy a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this part off, and then the last step, which I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to spray it with a satin sheen clear coat, and that will make it feel like polished stone. Let's see how it turned out. So I hope you found this helpful. This kind of technique can be used on any kind of surface to make it look like marble. And I'm super excited about the way that it turned out. I think it looks awesome. But where it really shines is once I took it outside and it had nice lighting on it. It really feels like it's glowing, like it's marble. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up so that YouTube knows that other people might also find it useful. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, don't be bored. Be creative.